Welcome to part 2 of this dresser changing table that I'm making for our daughter, who is coming very, very soon. If you haven't seen part 1 where we make the carcass, go check it out. I'll leave a link. But otherwise, let's jump into part 2 where we make the legs and the door fronts and all that good stuff. All right, so here's the leg assembly. They're angled slightly, and then we've got a radius here. So what we're going to do is make a template to match this whole piece here, and then we'll glue up our material and then use that template to match this with the router. So I love making templates. I love working with templates. I think it makes my workflow a lot quicker and gives me nice, clean, crisp, repeatable results, which is very important in furniture making. Even if you're just making a one-off piece, making a template because you got to make 2 of something is a lot better than just trying to replicate the 2 pieces, in my opinion. So after we finish out cutting the template with the track saw, and then we'll come and finish these cuts up with the jigsaw, it'll be time to mill up our material for this leg assembly. Now the material I'm using is a naughty grade alder. I picked this for, well, I do like the look of it. It's a softer hardwood, but I do like the look of it and the color and tone. But honestly, it's pretty cheap hardwood and it is very nice to work with. So we're using that template to measure out what exact angle we need to cut our pieces at, the exact length, and having that template really helps us lock in those pieces, do all the math without having to do much math, honestly. Now, the joinery we're doing here is called loose tenon joinery. Now, I know what you're thinking. Get a Festool domino. My goodness, you're not a woodworker unless you got one. I would if I could. I don't have the money right now, so we're stuck with this router jig here. But honestly, this works just as well, and it's super easy to do. So here's our mortise, and here's our loose tenon. Fits in there like that, and fits into the other piece. Now that jig is very simple. It's just a slot the same width as a guide bushing for router and a straight bit, but I will make a video on it if you guys would like, so comment below if you'd want to see that. But assembling these glue ups here was a little tricky. I have these blocks that I originally just tried taping on so that I could clamp perpendicularly across the glue joint. But the tape didn't stick too well, so I had to then clamp those blocks in, and then put the clamp on, and then put other clamps on to keep the joint from twisting at the edge or where there isn't a loose tenon, because we're going to add a router. It was a little tricky, but we got there. Long story short, we got there. And they're looking good. And there we are. The legs are assembled. It is late, very late. Like 1:30 in the morning late. So I'm going to go to bed. Tomorrow we will get these cut and shaped to the template. And we are so close to the finish line on this. I can taste it. It's looking pretty darn good. Pretty darn good, man, I must say. Yeah. Disassembly time. Alright, these have been glued up. Now time to get them to their final shape. Now here's something cool that I've been waiting for the right project to implement. This is a way to use a table saw and a template to get the same results that you would as using a template with a router and a straight bit with a guide bearing. This allows you to get the same exact results without having to worry about any tear out or anything like that. And honestly, in an instance like this, is preferable to the router, especially on the cuts on the end of the legs here, because we're going on the end grain, and with the router you'd have to worry about tear out, but you don't have to worry about that as much at the table saw here. Now, one safety note, you want to make sure between the fence and the blade there you have enough clearance for your fall-off pieces. That way you don't get any sort of kickback. And the only thing left we have to do is just rough out that radius, and then we will use the router on the radius because that's really the only way to do that. But as long as we leave the template on and go from the table saw to the router and cut it out, it's just as productive to do it that way. So we've got the general shape of these legs made. Now the last thing we need to do is just add that big old round over like we did on the front of the cabinet to these legs to give that nice soft wood look. Now, if you're enjoying the video so far, I really do appreciate it. Drop a comment down below. Just say the word hi. It helps out the channel a ton, believe it or not, in the YouTube algorithm and that stuff. So I really appreciate it if you can. Or if you got any questions or comments about the project, that's also welcomed. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're not already. Again, I appreciate all of your support with the channel. So yeah, now that we've got the leg assemblies pretty much done, we're going to jump into building the drawer fronts. So I like to, anytime I'm working with any sort of material, start with rough lengths, rough widths, and slowly refine it to the final shape. So here, I'm just looking through each of these boards, looking at the grain, seeing how I want the front of this cabinet to look. And I think that's an important step to take. Just take the time to pick through your pieces of wood, and especially the pieces that are going to be visibly seen. These are going to be the drawer fronts, the very front of this cabinet. So it's very important that we pick the best wood possible for that. So after rough cutting them the length, we're going to join a straight edge, rip another edge on the table saw, and rejoin any edges that we may need to, and then we are going to glue these boards up because I didn't have any boards wide enough for the bottom drawer fronts. Now, one tip I have for you, I'm not gluing up a huge panel like this, obviously, because these are going to be drawer fronts, but I don't want to do 3 separate glue ups, so I'm just gluing all of these together like I would one panel, and just being sure, obviously, not to glue all of the boards together, just the ones that I need, and then we will come out with 3 chunks of wood. 1, 2, 3. So we'll scrape off that squeeze out. Yes, I know I should have wiped it with a wet rag. I'm sorry. Then we'll run them through the planer to get them all nice and smooth. And we'll start to rip them to their final widths and add one little detail that is kind of subtle. You don't really see it on the cabinet, but this allows us to have no hardware, no drawer pulls, and still be able to open the drawer. So we're just adding a tiny little bevel to one edge of the drawer front. So for the top drawers, this will be the bottom edge, and for the bottom 2 drawers, this will be the top edge. But this allows you to just get your little fingers behind there and pull that drawer open and not have any ugly hardware on the front. Now I'm labeling the back of these on the ends of these cuts because I want the grain to be continuously flowing from one side to the other. There's going to be 2 drawer fronts next to each other, so I'm labeling them, that way I don't forget, and I can lay them out, and the grain continues all the way through and it looks like one continuous piece. Now with everything finally complete, we're ready for the final assembly. Now I know you may be asking, what about the clear finish you put on to the wood parts, and what about the drawer boxes you made? Well, to the finish, this is the first time I used it on this project. I used shellac. It's not something I've really ever used before, and I wanted to get it dialed in and work my own system before I kind of show that off. But I'm going to use it on future projects, and we'll make a more in-depth video about that. And for these leg assemblies, we're just screwing it from the inside of the cabinet with some nice quality screws. We'll get about 5 or 6 in there, and then we'll put the drawer slides and the drawer boxes in. Now the drawer boxes, like I said, didn't show that either. I'm going to make a whole separate video on that. And these drawer boxes here are really the cheapest method possible that you can make drawer boxes as far as material and time-wise goes. And I'd like to share with you that method more in depth in a future video. So I've got that coming on down the pipeline. But let's get the rest of this cabinet together and we'll see what my wife thinks of it in the end here. I'm just using some playing cards and a couple of spacer blocks I made to get these spaced out exactly where I want them. And I start with the bottom drawers and just go behind, throw some screws in, work my way up the cabinet until we're at the top. Now the title of this video is the most important build of my career. And I really mean that because the client here is my first child, and to be able to build something for her that hopefully she will use throughout her whole life and hopefully pass it down to her children, that's just something magical and kind of a time capsule of something I'm putting together for her in the future. But let's get my wife's reaction. Ready? 3, 2, 1, open.
Oh my goodness. Can I open it?
Yeah.
I love it. It is so cute. And I love the color. I love the contrast between this color and the wooden color and the green. It is so cute. I really like it.
Well, my wife approves. Hopefully the baby will too. Not that she'll have an opinion on this for quite some time, but hopefully it's something that she carries on into the future and is able to pass it down to her children one day. And it'll be a cool piece of furniture that a father or grandfather made. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. And thanks for watching.